surprise to anyone. I think the fragmented infrastructure, not having the data all in one place, complicated ways of getting data from one place to another, difficulty in joining and really processing data. Everything took long and it was hard and it made people miserable and they didn't want to do it. So they didn't, right? That's why those gut checks lasted so long, because that was more, it was easier and fairly accurate for a very long time. So, but this is what was going on. And in mid 2017, it came out at the very highest levels of the company, at the corporate strategy meetings. There were concerns voiced about all these problems, that we have all this data, we have the AMI meters all fully deployed, and we can't get to the data, we can't leverage it, we need to fix this. So that's where it really started. And from that point, hired a CDO to kind of evangelize the whole idea at the executive level, make sure everybody understood and bought in and everything. And once that groundwork was laid, then a decision was made to let's form an organization, which is what we did. And so we had one manager. Oh, the CDO quit, by the way. About a month before the team was starting together, that person left. So we had a manager and a supervisor and about 25 people for the team, half contract, half employee, more or less. And these were people that were already supporting the systems of data-ish stuff, all the ETL data services that were already, that's who we made the core of the team with. So once we brought all the people together, we decided what our guiding principles were and our processes, where our boundaries were. We had to educate that rest of the IT organization on what we were going to do, and what we were going to build. But what came out of that preparation was the objectives to make the data accessible. It's got to be organized, it's got to be timely, secure, and served up more or less on a silver platter for them to be able to analyze and turn into intelligence, the actual information rather than just data. We arranged ourselves in these 4 pillars, one around just developing the platform on the cloud, business value enablement, how are we going to go about it, and data governance, which is a really hard thing to get off the ground, and then operating the assets that we took responsibility for and that we were going to build. So this is kind of how we arranged ourselves. On the outset, one of the really key things as a guiding principle that we took on was one use case at a time, period. That's the only way we're going to do it. So before we started building the platform, really, we identified 3 key business partners who were very keen on getting this done and had a high value use case. We call them friendlies. They were friendlies, you know, we had a really good relationship with them. And so that's what we concentrated on. I am going to, just for Yang, I'm going to enable just that. And then the next person and the next person. And eventually the data that we had available on the platform grew to where it is today. So we know why it was established. And so in December of 2018, by now, there's no data platform. Azure was not even instantiated yet. I mean, we hadn't turned it on. So that was a learning. We had no real-time customer data. We had done a complete revamp of our customer system in early 2017. And the business had literally no access to real-time data from the customer system. So it was they were in a very frustrating position at the time. Of course, we didn't deliver anything when we were first starting, and there was no organization of what data was where and how to find it. So today, this should say 21, actually. Jeez, As of today, there's 156 terabytes of data on the platform. We've spun up 142 different PaaS services on Azure. We have a partial real-time customer data store that by the end of the year, our plan is to have the entire platform talking. We've deployed 152 use cases and just over 26,000 different data elements are cataloged. The giant bulk of that 156 terabytes is definitely the AMI data. We collect voltage every 5 seconds, 3 points from every customer, and we have 2.2, 2.3 million electric customers. So that is where we are at today. And in terms of use cases delivered, the demand is growing, our backlog is solid, and there's lots of work to do. We are well over the capacity that we can make available. So we do have help from Neudesic in extra capacity so we can deliver more quickly and people aren't waiting in a long line. 3 of the big business accomplishments that came out of here, and I'll go into these a little later in slightly more depth, but because we had the AMI data catalog by the time the pandemic was onset, corporate energy forecasting was able to very, very quickly provide daily reports of the changes in to the usage patterns. You know, all the big plants were down. It was a big deal for everybody, right? So the fact that Marcus was able to provide that to the daily financial meeting that was happening for 5 months at the beginning of the pandemic was really a big win. Energy theft analytics. This is a spot where our customer area has their own analytics organization, and they brought together over 30 data sets, merged them together, and one of their use cases, a machine learning use case, is detection of energy theft, and they were able to uncover in the very early stages, before it was even real mature, another 19,000 cases of potential theft that could be investigated. Last one there is all about reliability. So now that we have the voltage data and available and accessible, we can look more closely at individual devices, look for overloads, and the point there is to be able to go and fix a failing transformer before it becomes an unplanned outage. And so that is another success that we've been able to talk about. So now there's the platform itself. How do we do this? And this, I'm going to hand over to David.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to talk for the next 2 slides a little bit more in detail about the platform itself and some of the capabilities and how it all evolved and came together. So one of the first things that Neudesic helped DTE with is we came in and we did an evaluation of their platform and made some recommendations around tactical things that could be done immediately to make things better, as well as help create a roadmap for technology progression and innovation and evolution. So when we started, and when DTE first started their data platform and their data lake, what it looked like was infrastructure as a service. So this is Azure virtual machines and managed disks up in the Azure cloud. And then there was Hadoop software licensed and installed on that infrastructure, specifically Cloudera. So this was a pretty common pattern going back 4 or 5 years ago, or even before that. We see a lot of times that smart meter implementations are the catalyzing event that force utilities to adopt a big data platform and really start their big data journey. A lot of times, you know, the traditional relational database technologies just don't get you there when you're dealing with IoT scale data. So it is a great platform for establishing some foundational capabilities in big data processing, big data storage, at scale, efficient. And one of the first things that happened was loading all of the AMI data into that platform. However, there was also some pain points and some lessons learned as this platform evolved. And on the next slide, we'll go into what it looks like today, which is it's different than this. So the cloud data and analytics solutions, they're dependent on a solid cloud foundation, right? So what this means is we have a lot of customers that we work with, and it's the same for DTE, that they're really eager to do data and analytics on the cloud and take advantage of those capabilities. But they quickly realize that the foundational platform itself of cloud, just from a governance perspective, so talking about basic things like networking, connectivity between your on-prem data center securely up to the cloud, like site-to-site VPN, security, Azure Security Center, all these things, they need to be kind of stood up and established so that it's a safe, governed type of cloud environment to then start building these cloud services in the data and analytics space on top of. Another lesson learned with the Hadoop platform is it can be complicated data engineering development process. So the cycle times were longer than everyone would have liked, right? So when an ask comes in from the business, we would like, data provision and processed a certain way. It was a bit of a learning curve, right? To figure out all these Hadoop technologies, like how do I do Hive and all this stuff. It also can be very difficult to operate and manage, right? So things like doing upgrades can be a really big lift and a major pain point. So, the group, ideally, they want to spend more time on innovation and creating business value versus just operations and maintenance and keeping the lights on. So that was a pain point. And then it can be difficult to scale, right? So from a technology perspective, adding new nodes, growing the cluster, it can be a difficult, painful, timely, expensive process. There's also cost implications. And so we went through a whole analysis of cost benefit analysis and different trade-offs on the technology side. And then there was also, going back about 3 years and continuing until today, there was a lot of consolidation and disruption in the Hadoop vendor kind of ecosystem, which made a lot of people nervous. And so that was another thing that came up and caused some issues. So moving forward, this is what the platform has evolved to today. So like Joyce mentioned, there's a big focus on using Azure PaaS services. So at a high level, before I go into details or drain the slide, the first thing I want to emphasize is, PaaS, it stands for Platform as a Service, as many of you know. And the key here is that the cloud service provider, they're taking care of a lot of the operations and maintenance for you, right? So now our group, we don't have to worry about patching and licensing and all this stuff. It's a lot more streamlined, a lot easier. The other thing I want to highlight here is when you go with first-party cloud services, in this case Azure, they're all built to be interoperable, right? So everything out of the box has a connector, everything can talk to each other. Obviously there's some work always that needs to be done on the configuration side, but it's a lot easier to get everything connected and configured and talking to each other in a much more accelerated fashion. So basically the way this platform works, on the left-hand side, we have our data sources, and then we do data ingestion using various tools. I'm not gonna drain this whole slide in detail due to time. And then we have a data lake approach. So there's different data lake zones, if you think of like bronze, silver, gold, right? So a big piece of the strategy is to, instead of doing ETL, right, extract, transform, and then load, we do ELT, right? So we always capture the raw data and keep the raw data in the platform for any use case that we're doing. So then when the next use case comes, we can say, we already have that data set, right? And we can use that as we move forward. So it creates a critical mass of data that creates space for innovation, right? So I no longer have to spend so much time on data access and data provisioning. I can rather get straight into my use case and into my business value. And then as we move to the right, there's the consumption layer and the business intelligence tools and the API management to integrate analytics with apps so that there's a fully operationalized solution as well.
All right.
Well, I think the next slide is mine, sorry.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, so I just want to double click a little bit on the data lake approach and what that really looks like. So like I said, the goal is to get a critical mass of data all in one place so that it creates space to innovate. And now as new use cases come, they can be executed much more quickly. So what we have in the platform today, this isn't an exhaustive list, but some of the key assets are we have, field management, crew management type of data. There's asset data from the asset management system. There's distributed energy data in there. There's all the customer, a lot of the customer data and more coming soon in the platform. Obviously, all of the smart meters data in there, which there's quite a bit. And then some different back office data as well is on the platform. So again, this platform is kind of a centralized approach. So, Joyce, like you were saying, it's one use case at a time, but we also, as a standard, we always pull in the raw data and keep it there for prosperity so that in the future, when we need that data for more use cases, it's stored there.
Great. One other thing I wanted to say about this slide, this was the one that hit home with the top level executives. When they saw the different parts of their business that it's in lingo they can understand, right? How we gather it, that we collect it, it can be stored, it can be joined, and different data sets can be created out of it as a result. That in turn enabled the business to apply analytics of their choice, whether it's a Power BI dashboard or whether doing data science to predict the load for the next 6 months on, to a circuit level. Again, a number of insights have come out of this. I won't go through them. The deck is available on the app. So it's all there for you, but we have really been able to drive some real business value in a relatively short amount of time. So I am very proud of that. All right, again, these are 3 highlighted use cases that have been delivered and enabled. The first in the upper left here about having OMS, work management, and AMI data all in one place, married up and transformed per the business requirements. They could, for really the first time, give a full situational awareness of how many customers are out right now, how many trucks are in the field right now, what's happening right now. We can do that and we can share it with our customers. And so we're really making some nice strides. This is some more of the detail in the energy theft work along the bottom here. 100 billion rows of data is analyzed for that model, 100 billion. And they couldn't do that on their desktop, I'm pretty sure. So being able to have enabled that, also a big win for us. Protected business value there on the theft analytics was 2.5 million. And then talked earlier about the COVID-19 response that corporate energy forecasting was able to get done very quickly to help the company through that very difficult time when we weren't sure what our generation needs or capacity or what was going to happen. Right. Okay, this is the take home. Rip this one out and take it home, post it on your board. Lessons learned, and these are, I collected them from my boss, my peers, my team. What have we learned over the last 3 years, or how would you do it differently, or what was turned out to be really important? And that one use case at a time, in every respect, it's so easy to get distracted. Well, since we're in work management anyway, why don't we just grab everything while we're there? No, no. We're going to just get Yang what he needs to do this first reliability use case. That's all we're going to do. And we continue to do that. And the first one in kind of ends up paying for the use case, maybe. Yang had to pay for that AMI data to get moved out there, but he was the first one to use it and got value out of it first. So as the mix of data grows, now we're getting use cases where, yep, we got it all. We got it all. We just maybe have to tweak it a little bit, make a view that works for you, and they're on their way. So this just shortens our cycle time as well. It continues to go that way. Progress over perfection, my tagline from the first slide, right? We did not wait to get it, figure it all out and then go. We just went and accepted when it didn't go the way as planned, or we learned something new like, oh, you have to like configure Azure before I can build a data lake. Nobody told us that. No. So now we're, the enterprise data and analytics group is now bringing in networking and IPS and whomever else to get this done. And nobody in the company, by the way, knew how to do this. So we went and got help from another company to do that upfront configuration for us. So just don't try and figure it all out. Just make progress. Don't worry about the perfection part. That'll come.
I'll jump in on this one just for a minute. One of the things that's really great about cloud, and one of the advantages we see, is that it does support architecture in motion, right? So we can provision services and infrastructure as a pilot, and then fail fast and learn and iterate. Whereas, if I'm working with a traditional infrastructure vendor and I do a 5-year agreement with Cisco, the servers better work, right? It's a sunk cost. There's no room for error or innovation or try things as you go.
Yeah. Yes, and then so also taking it one step at a time, it sounds kind of like the one use case at a time, but it's a little different too, that those first use cases that you need to start with friendlies, people who want it bad, who are cooperative, you have a good relationship with, and they can accept that progress over perfection approach. They just want to get it done. So those are the folks that we worked with, and they were great partners, and so key into achieving the success we were able to. Get expert help. So we had a choice to either go out and teach everybody and then come back and try and stand it all up. No, that would be slow, and we would be guinea pigging ourselves, right? Just experimenting. So we chose instead to bring in Neudesic in this case to help us build out that platform, get us a roadmap, and at the same time upskill our own people. So that's been going on all along. So all the folks on the team, these are all new skills for them. So it's been a win for the team as well. It keeps engagement up, so on and so forth. One that's surprising is cloud. Even with really smart people, really super smart people, they don't get what that is. They don't understand that cloud is just another network location, really is all it is. But there's so much new lingo. It's unknown. They don't know how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost. What about my capital O&M? Oh, they're scared. So we have to like acknowledge it and nurture that part, educate and make sure they understand. It's just another network location. That's all it is in the big picture, right? And then, oh yes, please be very attentive to costs. The thought of all the cloud being all O&M at the beginning was pretty scary, because as a utility, that's not something we want to increase. And they can get very big, very fast if they're not being closely managed. So fortunately, Azure has the cost management tools available to us. We can look at it down to the finest grain that you could ever want to, exactly what's going on, by who, where, what for. And so we look at that regularly, and when we see a bump that we didn't expect, we can go after it pretty quickly. So, and I do want to mention that on the costs that we have been able to capitalize some of the Azure costs through reservations, both VMs, and we use Databricks, so Databricks units as well. And so I hope this was helpful information. Anything to add, David?
Said it.
And any questions? Yes, sir.
Let me get you the
Oh,
microphone.
there's a mic coming.
They can hear you online.
I'm John Laletta from Exactor. You mentioned in one of your programs, which I'm just interested in, it was a transformer outage management program. Was that substation transformers or pole top transformers?
The predictive analytics.
Yes.
These were pole top. They were distribution transformers.
Yeah. Okay,
Not
great.
necessarily, but
Thank you.
distribution transformers. We're doing different work with load forecasting at substation level.
So you mentioned that you have to be sensitive to the scary feeling of cloud and stuff. So I'm assuming that the bulk of your applications are on-prem hardware. Did you get a lot of resistance from the operations side, moving to cloud, setting up cloud? And how involved were they in the beginning for that?
From IT operations, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we weren't, this is another one of those things, I'm barreled in, honestly. And so infrastructure, the operations side, they are much more careful and they plan things out. And so it made them very nervous, but we definitely brought them in the fold very early so they could be part of, especially that foundational setup on Azure. Most of our stuff is on-prem, but we are actively moving out, and we're multi-cloud. We use Azure for everything inward facing. We use AWS for like our primary website and the external facing things. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Second question. When you started, you said you focused on just what that one individual's data needs were, basically.
Yes.
But then you would come back later and maybe find out, hey, now I need more data. How much rework do you think you did, especially in the first year or two of this?
I don't know that we did rework, but we went back to the same, I'll call it a pipeline, right? Now we need to maybe just expand what we're pulling across. The pipeline's already established. So it's really just changing. I'm using very simple terms, but changing your select statement. What am I going to grab from the source system over this already established pipeline? So I think that if we did it all at once, if we added them all up, there would certainly be efficiencies, but our business value would be pushed way down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned data governance and then all the data elements, all that good stuff that people love, right? They love to consume, but nobody wants to contribute. So did were there any tools that you used in the Azure cloud, or was it like a homegrown solution that you managed?
Good question. We started governance at its very simplest level, which was a catalog. Right at the beginning, we started in an Excel spreadsheet. We graduated to a SharePoint list, and then eventually, while that was happening, we were evaluating solutions for catalog and governance application, and we did implement Infojix, which is now Precisely, called Govern, and we are working right now again to expand the use of that and make the connectors a little more broad in what they can capture. But yes, so the catalog was the first step in data governance. But just like you said, it's everybody's, oh, this data, the lat longs on the meters are terrible. Okay, who wants to fix them? Nobody, nobody. Okay, I'll tell you which ones to fix. Who wants to fix them? Nobody. But don't fix them yourself. So it's really a cultural thing that we still have to work through on that.
Thank you.
Dave?
Second question.
One sec, David had a.
Oh, yeah, if I may,
comment.
I just wanted to jump in as well and make a point around, like we discussed, we intentionally collect the raw data and save it for prosperity for future use cases. So there's a lot of benefit in that, but there's also a challenge in that, a lot of times source systems, these are built as transactional systems, right? OLTP. So the raw data, it's not in business friendly terms. It has a lot of codes and column names. They're not intuitive. So there's a lot of work as well that has been done and continues to be done to make the data more consumable and make, business friendly terms and formats so that it's more intuitive to the business users as more of just a platform that they can speed of thought, write ad hoc queries and get results that matter to them. auditing in terms of like, there's some work where we compare counts and amounts to make sure that everything's coming through. And there's also different monitoring tools that, are in place at various levels of the technology stack to, look for errors or faults, stuff like that.
But we bring it in raw. No transformation. We transform after the load. ELT.
All right, second question, I'll give it out. So you did some make or buy decisions, right? Primarily like data governance. Did you explore make or buy for the entire platform?
That was a strategic decision that had been studied and came out of our enterprise tech and ARC group. That a more strategic decision that we want to be on the cloud, we use PaaS over IaaS over SaaS. That's the guiding principles that we use.
Yep, thank you.
So my question to you is, you guys said you have 26,000 data element cataloged. And so are they all related to your 152 use cases? Or you guys cataloged, like if one source system, you try to catalog as much as possible. How did you decide on those 26,000 data elements?
Sure. So the only data we have, I'll say it a different way. All the data that's on the platform has been used by someone. We didn't bring anything extra in. So everything on the platform is in the catalog. So it's all been used.
So, and I'm
Use case driven.
yes. So I'm asking this question because we are using the same data 360 from Infogix, right? So, so my question to you is, did you guys just bring in the metadata using Analyze, or business helped it to enrich that metadata?
The business has not been fully engaged yet.
Okay, so you guys are just pulling the metadata
We're
in there.
pulling in the metadata with the connector that we have. We just put in a connector between Govern and ADLS, the
Okay,
Azure Data Lake Storage, so that we could, everything funnels through there.
okay. So the data is not like, have you guys identified the data owner, data steward, or when you bring into the catalog, do you have a owner and data steward identified?
Much of it, but not other way around. Much of it we don't. Some small sets are claimed.
Okay, because that's where we are struggling, right?
Yep.
It's easy for IT to pull in metadata,
Yep.
but when we go to business, for them to enrich that metadata and certify the data, that's where we are struggling.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Did you have a question? Oh, I thought you did.
And to that, I do want to add one thing, that because of what just happened with our first data quality thing, there was a problem with AMI phasing, does attributes and whatever, and it kept breaking something. And my team happened to trip over it while they were testing something. And so we took it to who we thought would be the best people to do that. And we were able to engage them. They have claimed ownership and we fixed it. So I may approach the catalog the same exact way, one thing at a time. Find something that's broken that would be high value to fix, find the person that it's important to, and get the buy-off then. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it.
Right. Excellent presentation. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
My question to you is, do you have any strategies behind data retention on the cloud platform?
Oh, heck no. No, we really don't yet, because storage is cheap on the cloud. It's not cheap on-prem. So what we're more focused on right now is to start archiving those on-prem systems that are not going to go cloud anytime soon, so that we can, keep them operating and healthy. And then because we're so new into this space, the strategy is not there yet for it. And it's honestly, storage is cheap, especially if we can put it in cold storage, it's even better. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to jump in on this one too. I've been doing this a long time, right? So I remember going all the way back to mainframe, and back then storage technology itself, you couldn't have a lot of storage, right? So it became very important to encode things, compress things as much as possible. And then over time, if I think back to maybe 10 7 years ago, there was sand storage, right? Very expensive. Then when Hadoop had Hadoop distributed file systems, we were talking pennies on the dollar compared to traditional sand storage. And now with cloud object storage, it's pennies on the dollar compared even to that. So we do encounter, though, a lot of times there's organizational governance, IT governance policies, if you will, that are left over. I would call them legacy at this point. So it's important to lean in, I think, and engage and work through that in a partnership with that IT governance organization to see what makes sense and to kind of cloudify your policies, right, if you will.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't share that I do want to pop in, that, we were out on the cloud, I think, when CCOE came in, maybe a year and a half. So our little group knew more about operating on Azure than anybody else, right? So we had a plan, we were working with the people we were supposed to work with. Then somebody decided, well, we're going to have a cloud CCOE, Cloud Center of Excellence. Now they're going to change. So cart before the horse, but take that into account too. If there's going to be a CCOE, do it, engage those people very early and try not to create it a year and a half down the road when you've already got your standards and everything in place and so on.